I have felt a lot of things as a pastor, but I have never felt so crushed and confused as that day when I saw abuse up close. When I saw how a person can manipulate the greatest thing in the history of the universe, the gospel of Jesus Christ, just to control, just to get his way. I realized just how ugly this sin was. That's why today, I want to go on the record for what I think, what this church thinks, and most importantly, what the God of the universe thinks about abuse. I want to say it publicly. I want it to be recorded and podcasted, filmed and broadcast, so there is never, ever a mistake about what we think, and most importantly, what he thinks about abuse. It's the first of three things I want to share with you today if you're taking notes, and it's this, that God hates abuse. Let me give you three passages to prove that. First, from Genesis chapter 6. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. Show of hands, how many of you have ever heard the story of Noah's Ark? Yeah, lots of it. If you thought the story of Noah's Ark was cute, if you thought that little ark was something to put up in a kid's bedroom with those little animals marching 2 by 2, do you know what the story of Noah and the ark is really about? The God who hates abuse. God literally terminating the lives of every human being except 8 people. Why? For the earth was filled with violence. Humanity's pattern of behavior was to use fear and force to maintain power and control, and so God from heaven almost ended us. Because God hates abuse. And if you have some conception that that's just the Old Testament, when God seemed a little bit more angry, Jesus felt the exact same way. Look at Matthew chapter 18, the words of our Savior. Jesus said, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Jesus said that. That if anyone causes a little kid to stumble, and I'm not sure relationally, psychologically, spiritually, if anything makes kids stumble like abuse, it would be better, Jesus said, for someone to zip tie a cinder block around your throat and to push you off the boat. What you would feel in that moment would not be equal. It would be better than what will happen when you stand before God having caused one of these precious little ones who believe in him to stumble. That's savage. That's Jesus. Because the God who walked in human flesh hated abuse. And that's not even the worst passage. Look at Psalm 11 with me. The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, who's he? God hates with a passion. You ever heard someone say, God hates the sin but loves the sinner? Not exactly. God hates, not violence. He hates those who love violence. And God doesn't just regularly hate them, he hates them with a passion. Now, if you have been abusive, I really need you to come back next week. I have a hunch you want to run for those doors as fast as you can. Please don't, because God has so much more to say to you. But if you have been abused, I just need you to hear this. God hates it. And so you can hate it. You don't have to excuse it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to make sense of it. You don't have to blame yourself for it. If only I would have done this, or only I wouldn't have done that. You can hate with a passion abuse as much as God does. You can hate it enough to call the cops. You can hate it enough to get a counselor. You can hate it enough to call the pastor. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Did you hear me? It's not your fault. And God hates it every time it happens. And he wants it to stop. That's why in your programs, when you came today, you found this. This little sheet of paper is a short list of resources of people who can help you hate abuse and find healing. From your pastors to local counselors, nonprofits, good books that I've read, websites that I've studied in my research. You don't have to raise your hand and confess what you've been through today, but if you want help and you want healing, I pray that you can take a next step. God hates.
There's more information, and I'll put the link in the description box below. Thanks for listening.